Hey guys, Tactical Pumpkin here, bringing you some tips for Modern Warfare's Warzone Battle Royale mode that will hopefully give you some insight into some of the lesser known mechanics in the game and make your life a little bit easier when you're trying to get those wins. The first tip I have for you today is that the Recon Contracts that can be found and completed around the map will not only reveal the next safe zones, but if you do enough of them, will actually reveal every single safe zone all the way down to the final circle. So you're probably thinking, how many of these contracts would I need to complete to reveal the final circle? Well, there are a total of 8 circles in a Warzone match, which means if you complete 7 of these Recon Contracts, you will be able to see the final circle. And this is really valuable information to have, because if you're going for wins and that's all that you care about, then there's no better way to do it than to find the last circle and set yourself up in the best spot available as early as possible to give yourself the best chance at winning the game. Just don't forget, there are probably going to be some other squads who are trying to do the same thing, so be ready to defend your position. Tip number 2. Opening and cutting your parachute once as soon as you jump out of the plane will cancel the auto-deploying parachute that would usually activate, which will let you choose when you open your parachute. This means you can deploy your parachute extremely close to the ground and ensure that no one who might have landed next to you gets an easy couple shots on you while you're floating around in the air. It's also a great way to hide your landing position from other nearby teams later on in the game when you're redeployed from the gulag or brought back by your teammates. I've managed to get to a point where I can deploy my parachute just a couple meters from the ground, and I've gotten to that point by just using the pre-game lobby to practice late parachute deployments. It's a great place to practice because there's no punishment for dying in the pre-game lobbies, and you can usually get at least 2 or 3 practice landings in before the game starts. The third tip is that you shouldn't give up on a bounty target just because the contract has expired. If you and your team have been chasing down a target for a long time, and just as you're about to start fighting them, your contract expires, that means that the team you've been chasing has just been awarded a pretty decent amount of cash for surviving the bounty, which you can still take from them if you wipe them out. Tip number 4 is one that you might have seen before, but I'm including it just in case because it's very useful and really there's no reason not to do it. And this is changing your minimap option from circle to square in the options menu. Doing this will give you a bigger minimap and let you see more of the surrounding area. It's especially useful for spotting enemy vehicles on the edges of your minimap, which could mean the difference between your team being ambushed and avoiding enemy contact. Tip 5. Heartbeat sensors are the most useful tactical equipment you could have by far in Warzone. These little iPads will give you a massive advantage in any gunfight against a team who aren't running the Ghost perk. It's basically like having your own personal, unlimited mini UAV. It can detect players up to 50 meters away in a 180-degree field of view and does not take height into consideration at all. So you could fly around in a helicopter with a team member on either side scanning the buildings below for players. The heartbeat sensor really shines when you are fighting in a very close quarter situation. For example, if you're hunting a bounty target and you're not sure exactly which corners they might be hiding in, the heartbeat sensor would let you know before you push into a room which corners to pick and which are safe. Once you start using it, you'll find yourself pulling it out every time you're about to enter a building, and it will probably save your life more times than you can count. For tip number 6, I thought I'd bring up how equipping armor works, because I see a lot of players who still equip their armor plates one at a time by tapping the armor button and waiting for the animation to complete before putting in the next piece of armor. The most efficient way to equip more than one piece of armor is to press the button the amount of times that correlates to the amount of armor you want to wear, and it will run one animation that equips all your plates at once. For example, look at the difference here between me putting on armor one at a time and putting 3 plates in all at once. It's much faster to do it this way, and you can still be pretty mobile while you're putting in these plates. You can still sprint, slide, and jump while you're equipping the armor, and if you don't trigger any new animations like mantling a wall or switching weapons, the animation should finish without any problems. The 7th tip is only for team modes because it wouldn't really work in a solo game. If you're having a long distance sniper battle and a hit and lose all your armor, don't bother equipping new armor plates until either you wipe the team you're sniping or you are being pushed and need to defend your position. I say this because if you, for example, are rooftop sniping and are shot by a sniper, you're probably going to go down in one hit anyway, whether or not you're wearing your armor, and chances are your teammates can easily revive you from cover and you can keep on shooting until you waste the enemy team's armor. If you do this, you won't have to worry about losing all of your armor when you're in those long distance sniper fights. Tip number 8. Having some loadouts dedicated to rearming ammunition with the fully loaded perk can be a game changer. Say for example it's the 6th or 7th circle, your team has just been wiped and you've managed to make it out of the gulag. It's too late in the game to waste time looking for guns and ammo, so if a random loadout drop lands nearby, which usually happens in the last couple circles, you can grab your fully loaded AR, SMG, shotgun or sniper class, which immediately gives you the maximum amount of ammo for that weapon type. This means if a teammate drops in with you, you could even share some of that ammo with them because you'll have so much. Even if it's not the end game and you just happen to run into a random loadout drop, you can pull out your fully loaded class and just swap out your weapons to fully rearm yourself. Just keep in mind you will keep the perks that your fully loaded class has equipped, so make sure that your perks on that class are the same as the perks on your main class. Tip 9 is that if you like to run overkill to have two primary weapons, like for example an AR and a sniper rifle, you should consider making two classes with Ghost instead of one with overkill. One will have your AR and one will have your sniper. This means you won't have both weapons when you get your first loadout drop. So choose which weapon you want to get first depending on the situation you're in. It also means that once you do get your first loadout, you will have the Ghost perk, which is an essential perk to run in Warzone because of how easy it is to get a UAV and how powerful they are. The Ghost perk will also hide you from heartbeat sensors, which will protect you from being hunted down effortlessly by players that use them. Although it might be annoying to have to pick up two loadout drops to get both your weapons, it's well worth having the Ghost perk equipped, and free loadout drops land throughout the game anyway, which means you'll most likely end up grabbing your second weapon, eventually. Tip number 10 sort of bounces off tip 9, and this is that despite what the description of the Ghost perk says, advanced UAVs cannot detect players running the Ghost perk in Warzone, like they can in regular multiplayer. Because of the misleading description, you would be forgiven to assume that Ghost players would still appear on the map as dots with the advanced UAV. However, it's important to know that this is not the case, and if your team has 3 UAVs, you're better off using them one at a time instead of using them all at once to call in the advanced UAV, because you'll pretty much be getting the same information minus the direction the players are facing, and it will also last much longer than an advanced UAV. Here's a clip of us getting surprise attacked by a team that didn't show up on our advanced UAV at all until they started shooting at us. One of them's, why are they looking at us?
One of them probably have a UAV as well.
What? He's got a sniper, I can see his glint. What the hell?
He's close. Oh, behind! Oh, really close. He wasn't showing up on the map.
They weren't on the UAV. Why weren't they on the UAV? What?
Ghost? I don't understand.
Ghost doesn't work for advanced UAV. What the hell?
How? Hey, what? He's still not showing up. Yeah, nah. He's not. I'm broken.
I got him. They're gonna have self-revive there.
Apparently, I didn't have self-revive, by the way.
I had it, but I got sniped. Careful, there's a guy
He
sniped.
just revived himself. I can't aim!
It's alright, bro. There was a guy sniping in my truck. Yeah, he's gonna fuck you up. Fuck, dude. Oh. Fuck, are you kidding me?
Was that the last team in the
Yeah, it was.
That's so bullshit. We should not have lost that. They should have shown up.
How do you not show up on an advanced UAV? Tip number 11. The .357 revolvers with the Akimbo perk and snake shot rounds equipped are the best sidearms you can have equipped in your classes for Warzone, period. I know it might sound crazy, especially if you have used the regular .357 revolvers before in the Gulag or in multiplayer. They're trash. They have a trigger delay and a slow fire rate. But when you put the effort into leveling up the revolver and equipping these two attachments, The single, slow and weak revolver becomes a set of akimbo shotgun pistols that turn into team-wiping machines in close quarters situations. You can seriously wipe out an entire fully armored team who are camping a building with these things. Assuming you're running it with akimbo, you can shoot off 12 shotgun rounds before you need to reload, which is more than enough to wipe out an entire team if at least 50% of your pellets are hitting your target from no more than 5 meters away. Not to mention, if you are using these on just one player in a close quarter situation, it will be near impossible for them to outgun you, since you can shoot off 2 shells instantaneously, which is enough to down a fully armored player. If at least some of your pellets hit them in the head, which will probably happen anyway because of the spread of the snake shot rounds. The akimbo 357s with snake shots are a must for anybody who normally runs the overkill perk to carry a shotgun as a secondary, because you do not need to run overkill to equip snake shot revolvers, which means you can run ghost instead. And also, despite what you might think, the snake shot 357s don't use shotgun ammo. No, they use regular pistol/SMG ammo, which means that you can hold up to 150 spare rounds for them at any time. On top of all that, they're just fun to use. I find that my confidence instantly skyrockets when I push a building with these pistols in my hands. Here are some examples of the power of the snake shot revolvers.
Get him, James.
Dead, bro.
I'm fucked.
On me? He's on me. I'm marked him. He's in there.
God! Oh my god.
UAV out.
I'm jumping. Whoa,
Someone-
here. Down. There's still one more somewhere. I don't know where the other guy is.
Go. He's coming. Yeah.
They are indeed. Down one on the roof.
He drop shotted me! He has no armor! He's a dirty... Where? What? So, okay, so I go up the stairs. We go up the stairs, Paul. You can...
The 12th and final tip is sort of a bonus tip, because it won't really help you win games, but it is really fun to do. As you may already know, standing behind a player and holding down the melee button will perform an execution animation that will instantly kill the player. Each operator has their own unique execution animation, but did you know that you can actually trigger a completely different animation if you hold the melee button behind a downed enemy? Next time you down an enemy and want to finish them in style, try this out. It will definitely make them really salty and make you feel like a badass. Those are all the tips I have for you today, but before I end the video, I thought I'd show you why I use the loadout that I use for Warzone, to give you an idea of what kinds of changes you could make to your own classes. So this is my main Warzone loadout. I use a FAL as my primary weapon because I find that it can be used as both a long-range DMR that can compete with snipers if your aim is on point, and as a medium-range AR, assuming that you have a good trigger finger, and you are okay with semi-auto weapons. In terms of attachments, I run the monolithic suppressor for the range and to stay off the map when I'm shooting. The thermal hybrid is for spotting enemies camping on rooftops or on hills in the distance. And you can also switch to the angled red dot sight for closer range fights, or for fighting players with cold-blooded who are immune to thermal optics. The 30-round magazine is necessary for medium range gunfights where you can easily run out of ammo quickly depending on how quickly you're firing. The marksman barrel is to help fight the recoil as well as to increase the damage range of the FAL. And finally, the grip is to help boost the ADS speed back up because all the other attachments really tank the ADS speed. As for my secondary weapon, of course I'm using the 357 revolver with akimbo and snake shot rounds for close range combat. I also have the long barrel equipped to increase the effective range and the lightweight trigger to increase the fire rate. I personally don't run a fourth attachment for cosmetic reasons, but you could put a laser or a muzzle attachment on as well if you wanted to. In terms of perks, I'm running cold-blooded so I don't light up like a Christmas tree in thermal optics, and also so that I don't trigger the high alert warning for anyone who runs that perk. My second perk is Ghost, Again, in my opinion, you should only be using Ghost as your second perk, because it is so important to stay off those UAVs and heartbeat sensors. And finally, my third perk is Amped. This is mainly for the quick weapon swap speed, so I can switch from my FAL to the snake shots very quickly. Interestingly, even though it says that Amped does not affect swapping pistols, I still feel like it is faster with Amped than without it. My lethal is a frag grenade. I like to have frag grenades because if you know how to cook them properly, you can do some serious damage to campers, especially in combination with my tactical, the heartbeat sensor, which will act as my own personal short-range UAV for clearing buildings and tracking down those bounty targets. That's all I've got to share with you today. I hope you've gotten something out of this video and that you can incorporate some of these tips into your gameplay to ultimately help you secure some more wins in the Warzone. I'll see you guys in the next video. Stay frosty.